weigh this amount, or, oh, I'm going to be that. I just need the routine, because once I have a routine, I can keep it up.
So really excited to be chatting with you today, Molly Woofter. So we talked a few months ago before your first 6-week health sprint, before you did H40. I want to sort of dig right in and go back to your expectations, even go back. You remember the conversation we had a few months ago?
Of course, yeah.
What was your mental state? Like, were you excited? Were you nervous? Were you unsure of what the next 40 days, 6 weeks was what was going to happen?
Absolutely.
Like, how
all
were you?
Of the above.
Yeah.
I mean, I absolutely was nervous because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm getting interviews. So, as a way of doing it, it was kind of like the push.
It was a commitment.
Yes. And so I was absolutely nervous about adding one more thing, and everyone's like, oh, it's just so easy. When you try to do other stuff, just add, and then add this and then add that. But the way your program worked was you had a whole week to get used to adding one more thing.
Yeah.
And when you did it, you're like, oh, okay, you know what? That wasn't that bad. I can do the next step. It wasn't like, the 6 things, you could have tried to throw it all at us at one time, but instead it was, you kind of got to figure it out slowly, and it makes it easier to put it as part of your life as opposed to make it be, well, I just have to do this for 6 weeks. Or,
It's hard enough to build a new habit. And I think
Right.
the way that we built Freedomology, it was created around our natural instincts, like what we will and won't do. And so that's why we spread the 6 key concepts or principles throughout the 6 weeks. So it's like morning routine. It'd be easier for me to give you my morning routine, to give you my dietary approach, to give you, my thoughts on movement, strength training. But I think, just like you said, giving that all to you at one time would not allow you to really absorb that into your rhythm of living. And
Right.
I think that's been the key. That's why so many people are having success with H40 who've tried other programs in the past. Now, you have your committed shirt on, which I love for sure. You got that at the end of the sprint, which is incredible. You gave us a really good written testimonial, which sort of supported not only the way we taught these principles, but also sort of these concepts from like a biological perspective. Why don't you give everybody an idea of your background, your husband's background? Did he get involved in the first sprint? Is he like, how has your relationship with him changed or evolved? Because a lot of times people who are married, if they do something like this by themselves, it's like, hey, is this going to change the way that our marriage works? Because am I going to be eating something different than my husband? I mean, how did you approach that whole thing?
Right. And the kids too. That's the food I was worried about. Like, oh my gosh, what if I get complaints? Because I'm such a people pleaser in the first place, right? But no, it worked because Ricky has his PhD in biochemistry and my master's degree is in biology. And I really was impressed with both of us especially the biohacking one. I made Ricky watch it with me, and we were both very impressed about how much research and how much that you had done. Because, if I'm correct, you're in business and finance and stuff like that. It's not like you're like, oh, hey, the methyl group on the, you know what I mean? It's not like that's your common vernacular or anything like that. And so I really liked how much you guys committed and went into it. But it wasn't just like, here's the science. It was also, here's how the science worked for me.
Yeah.
And so in terms of my family, in terms of, us working on it together, we have absolutely been looking more and more into the biohacking. The biohacking is that's a deep rabbit hole that you could, kind of get into.
You could spend as much time as you want.
Right. And so it's been kind of nice following, your footsteps, because you're like, I tried this. I didn't like this. I tried, and I really like the measurements, the data driven, as opposed to it just being feeling driven, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, if I take 6 supplements, you may or may not take the same 6, right? Your body is different on the inside as it is on the outside. And I think biohacking gives us that opportunity to look at our body from the inside out, and not just how we look, but how we feel, how we're waking up in the morning, and how we feel in the afternoon, how we're sleeping.
Adam, to me, I need to work on it not being a checklist. I need to look at it more as an opportunity for myself.
Yeah.
And start the day
that way.
You don't have to do it. You get to do it.
Yes.
How did you change your morning routine? Did you adopt everything we said, like religiously? And what rhythm have you developed today?
Well, okay, I will.
Well, hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our week 5 coaching call. This week, we're going to be talking about flow. I'm Tony, if we haven't met.
And I'm Greg. And Tony, I know you want to get into sort of the psychology of flow and environment. And I think a lot of us, like, we're looking for shortcuts to health. We're looking for the secret thing, the switch that's going to make us healthier. And in Freedomology, we talk about, mental health being the foundation for health. Physical health, everybody thinks they want to be healthier. They connect that to how they look and hopefully how they feel. But the mental, how the brain reacts to things and just how we look at the world is such an integral part of health. Just so that mental health and that physical health, mental health at the core, physical health at the surface. To me, man, one of the most exciting things or revelations regarding health is that environmental health is that connective tissue that really connects our mental health to our physical health. It's like the one thing that can improve both at the same time, because if you think about it, we're always in a space, right?
Yeah.
We're always occupying a space. Like right now we're in a studio and we're talking to you. In the studio that we had 5-6 years ago with Real Flow wasn't quite as nice as the studio that we've built. When we made the commitment, when we moved from interest to commitment, like we're going to put out a lot more content. We just made a decision, like, let's actually make the studio exactly what we want, what we need, inspiring. So we actually want to go in there and create content.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're looking for a secret or a key which is going to help really unlock better health physically and mentally, it is this week's module. It is your environment.
Yeah, you're the one who really opened my eyes to this. I don't think I had placed much thought in at least not in when I'm thinking about health. I'd thought about my environments, and I have a studio at home, and I like it when it's nice and not when it's messy. But that's about as deep as I'd thought about it. I hadn't thought, how is this actually impacting my mental health? How is this set up to either support or detract from my physical health?
Right.
But I think once I heard this from you and we got talking about it, just clicked for me that, like, yeah, you are always you are somewhere 100% of the time.
Right.
You're always in an environment, and every environment you're in has some purpose, some function. And so ideally, like you just said about this studio, you want your environments to be functional and useful, but also joyous, bring you joy and be spaces that you love being in. If you're always somewhere, wouldn't you want to be places that you love a higher percentage of the time? You know, I think so.
Yeah, and I think so. I know we want to jump into flow and into the into the sections, into the pieces, the ingredients and the recipe. But if you think of it this way, so what are the 2 most important environments to optimize? I think it's where we work and play. Like, I think it's because we're working like professionally, and so let's say you work at a factory and you really can't optimize your environment. You're sort of, you're sort of a pawn in this bigger.
You're on the assembly line.
Yeah, you're on the assembly line. That's okay. Then I would question, is this environment, is it inspiring? Do I want to be here long term? Is it a means to an end? Can I use this environment as a stepping stone to a better environment? But that doesn't mean you have no control over your environment, because you could have control over the break room. You could have control over certain parts of your environment. But if you are lucky enough, blessed enough to have direct control over your environment where you work, absolutely make that an inspiring space, like the lighting in that environment, and make it a place that you actually want to sit and just be in, like maybe not meditate in, but the same concept. Like, could I just be here? Is there a little bit of, awe and wonder about my work environment? Like my office, I love going to my office, whether it's my home office or the office here at the building.
Feels good.
Yeah, it just feels good. And another environment that's super important to optimize is where we play, right? There's this concept of, improving the quality of your leisure time. Now that sounds crazy, but
that's good, man.
All of us need time to rest and recharge, like we do. And for example, we go on vacation to South Carolina a lot, like the Myrtle Beach, a Surfside area. When we take that family vacation every year, and we've done the past 20 years, we've probably done this 8 or 10 times. It's very much, an activity-filled vacation. Like there's a lot to do. There's a lot of stimulation at all times. It is a touristy part of South Carolina.
Yeah, you're sightseeing and
versus when we go to vacation in St. John in the U.S. Virgin Islands. St. John is in the U.S., right? But it's in the Caribbean. And it is sort of what you think of. When you think of tropical paradise, like destinations, you're pulling up on a boat. You can't really fly into St. John. You fly into St. Thomas, which is a cool island in and of itself. Way different vibe. Way different environment than St. John.
Really?
Okay? And so St. John was owned by the Rockefellers. And then he donated pretty much the entirety of the island or most of the island to the U.S. national parks.
Okay.
And what happened was that I think 70 to 80% of the island is still U.S. parks, so it's undevelopable. Like, you can't build things on it, and they have strict, restrictions on like high-rise hotels. There's no McDonald's, there's no Burger King. A lot of times you go to Caribbean islands, you go to Hawaii, and it's very commercialized.
Yeah,
St. John is completely So there's been a little development, but essentially it's the same today as it was 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. There's a few more houses. Cruise Bay, the area where you sort of come into, is a little bit more developed with condos on the hillside. But once you get out of Cruise Bay and sort of into the flow of the island, man, it is a rest and relaxation island. The beaches, a beach is optimized for rest and for recharging, right?
Yep.
At least a beach on St. John. Again, if you go to Daytona Beach or Myrtle Beach, you've got hundreds, even thousands of people on the beach. Just think of, some of us can unwind, but a lot of us are still we're still sort of in that moment of being in a touristy area.
Yep.
And I can tell you without question, when I'm in Myrtle Beach versus St. John, just the depth of relaxation I get at St. John is way higher.
Yeah, the
right?
headspace
So my
is
mental
different.
health, yeah, exactly. So it can be something as simple as where you choose to go on vacation. That is an environment, and if you need to recharge, which a lot of us do, maybe pick a spot that's got less people and allows you to just sort of unplug a little bit easier.
Yeah, I like focusing on where you work and where you play, because I've seen some people ask, like, how do I pick which environment to transform first? But those really are the two places you spend most of your time. If you're working full time, you're spending 40 plus hours a week in your work environment. And when you're not there, you're probably home. And I don't know, maybe in 2024, it's easy I think there could be a temptation in our leisure time to be, so sucked into a screen or something that we're not thinking about our environment. I love what you said about increasing the quality of leisure time. Like there's better and worse ways to play.
Right.
Which is just great to think about.
And the more money you make, the easier it is. This is, you don't need money to improve an environment, but like, for example, if you're going to a lake house, like we're going to a lake house this weekend.
Nice.
Our boat up there is a cool environment, like to be on the water, not just to be around the water, but to be on the water is a cool experience. And make no mistake, the boat, being on the boat is an environment. And when you're on the lake and when you're cruising to an island in Lake Erie, people don't associate Lake Erie with so certainly not tropical destination, but it's very much, it feels like up there, it feels like the New England coast.
Yeah, it does.
A little bit, like Boston, Cape Cod-ish a little bit. And so that's a cool environment to be in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's quality of leisure time for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to just walk through, we have this acronym for this week where we're talking about designing spaces that you love. And again, the goal here is to have spaces that are functional and spaces that help you with your mental health, spaces that you love being in. The higher percentage of time you can enjoy where you are, the more of your life that you love. So we have this acronym FLOW. Each letter stands for some aspect of how we would suggest you could go about transforming an environment. So I just want to walk through these letter by letter and talk about some of these different concepts that make for a better or worse environment.
Perfect.
So
let's do it.
Let's start with F, which stands for focus. And this is all about having a space that's dedicated to specific activities. You say all the time, whatever you're doing, do it. Like, do whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah, whatever you're doing, make sure you're doing. It's like, keep the main thing the main thing. Like, when you're at work, you should be working. You should not be on your phone unless your phone is part of your work responsibility. When you're at home, you should be at home. When you're watching Netflix with your significant other, you be in that moment. When you're at your kid's baseball game, be at the baseball game, the football game. Football starts tonight. So when I go, we have a son in high school. I'm gonna actually be in the stands. I'm not. My phone's gonna be in my pocket.
Yeah.
Right so on Do Not Disturb. I'm not going to be constantly looking at my phone. I'm going to be in that moment. So whatever you're doing, make sure you're doing that. That right there, that single action or philosophy can dramatically improve your mental health. So without question.
Absolutely. And I think that it applies to our spaces as well. So I think our spaces ideally should be focused. Let me give you some examples. The bedroom should be for rest and sleep. Yeah. It shouldn't also be probably a playroom for the kids, and it probably shouldn't also be a place where there's like, I don't know, a TV that's going to be super stimulating. Like, it should be a place that's designed for rest. Or maybe you are trying to set up a home gym, something in the basement, a place that you could work out. Don't also have that be, again, like I'm going to kids' playrooms because my kids have taken over my house. So like, but just think about, the goal is to remove friction for whatever activity you're trying to do there. So if you're trying to get healthy, you've committed, I'm going to start exercising more. I'm going to do that in the basement. But every time you go down there to work out, you're stepping on Legos and you can't find your weights and things are misplaced. There's just an increased amount of friction there for you to actually get to the activity that you're trying to do in that space versus a basement, a home gym that is clean, tidy, weights in their place, everything you need right there where it is. You can just walk down and get straight to the activity. Or maybe you're trying to eat healthier, you're trying to cook more meals at home, but if your kitchen's not organized and you can't find the ingredients you need and things aren't where they should be, you're just going to experience more frustration and friction as you try to engage in those activities. So make your space as focused as Greg just talked about. Whatever you're doing, do it. So
yeah, and so quit being interested in it. Like, commit to actually taking a space, and it could be a living room. It could be like reading. We talk about work and play, but when I think play, I also think like rest and rejuvenation. So for me, like reading, like we have our living room. We have one chair in the corner of our living room where, so I have my home office where it's a good environment to read, but we have this one chair where like you sit in the corner and you look left and there's a window of the farm. You look right and you see the orchard, you see the apple trees, and the chair is comfy and books are there. So it's like where I keep books. It's something as simple as just optimizing. It could be the corner of a room because that's sort of where you can read a book successfully, efficiently. And so that's what we're talking about. And like the gym, my thoughts with the gym, home gym in the basement.
Yeah, you don't do that, do you?
No, I don't do that because that's
me.
not a great, and I don't, for me, it's not like, for me, I need to go to the gym.
It's not inspiring.
I've never, even though I work out primarily by myself for the most part. So over the years, I've had some partners, but it's better to have a partner working out than yourself. But, I get to the gym consistently. Yeah. I'm committed to it, but I'm committed to going somewhere. And there's this great gym in Brunswick, UXL, which is just, it's optimized for working out. It's got everything that I need, or really anyone would need, to get in shape and be physically healthier, and as a byproduct, improve our mental health. So I go there versus I've tried the gym in the basement, and it's not like I can't get into it, but some people can. So you might be wired differently than me, and that's all right.
So for you, it's because you could create a home gym that has all the weights that UXL does and has everything you need, but it's something about the atmosphere.
Yeah, the energy. So I'm a big energy person. And so for me, other people working out, over the years, you begin to develop like friendships with people in the gym, and consistency. Like, they're always there. Like we have the time I go in the gym in the morning, we have a group of older guys that work out, and it's like, I know them all by name. And we chat, and like, I care that they're there, and they care that I'm there. So it's
almost keeping each other accountable.
It's almost an accountability where if you're not there, if I'm on vacation for a week, where have you been?
Where were you? You've been slacking?
Yeah, exactly. No, we were out of town. But that's an environment, a perfect example of an environment that's conducive to physical and mental health, right?
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, so let's move on. So a space should be focused. Something else to consider is the effect that lighting can have on a space. I think about this a lot because I've got a background in video and photo, and lighting is everything in video and photo. But I think it's often overlooked because I'm even just, obviously we're in a studio, so there's lights here, and I'm kind of looking at the way we have this set up, but it creates a certain vibe, and lighting can, there's a reason, for example, that candlelit dinners are romantic. There's a reason that if you're in a romantic situation, you want to dim the lights, turn that down, because it changes the atmosphere, right? Or think about the times you've been to a hospital, a dentist's office, somewhere very sterile and cold, and what kind of lighting is there? It's overhead, fluorescent, cold light. So think about, I don't know, like we said, the spaces you play, the spaces you work. What's the lighting situation like there? Like if you're in your office, do you just have like cold overhead fluorescent light? That would crush my soul. Like when I first got here, we had fluorescent lights. I had to bring a lamp in from home because I just needed something warmer, some warmth there.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting study I just want to reference here because this is, I just find this fascinating. So this was a study from 2014 that found that workers who had exposure to natural light during their workday experienced an 84% decrease in symptoms like eye strain, headaches, and blurred vision. And they also reported better sleep quality and higher levels of overall well-being. 84% decrease in those symptoms. So we've talked about mental health and how lighting can affect that, but also physical health, headaches, blurred vision, and that's just from having some natural light during their workday. So
we're like next week we're going to talk about rest and like blue light in our circadian rhythm, but absolutely like natural light. You know, the sun rises, the sun sets. If we can get exposure to that, that's good light, right? It's healthy for us. But, you know, besides the fluorescent lights, you know, if you can optimize an environment with a lamp and the right, you know, light bulb, then that's an easy way to sort of get in the mood, and mood is important for sure.
Change the feel of a room. Yeah. So maybe play around with maybe it's a lamp, maybe it's some LED strip lights, and you can add a splash of color to certain areas of your home. Like in my studio downstairs, I have, for me, it's a creative space. It's where I make music, and it's definitely a place of leisure for me, and creativity. And so I have a big white wall, brick wall that we've painted white there that I splash colored light on when I'm down there. One color on one side, one color on another side. It kind of creates this gradient look that takes up the whole wall. It's pretty visually stunning for me. And when I walk into that environment, it just puts me in the headspace to create. It's like, I'm in my safe space, you know, I'm in my happy place. So play around with lighting, consider that. And if you can, get natural light for sure.
So Tony, too, like if we think about something as simple as like a library or a home library, home office, or there's a reason bookshelves are central, because like at my home office, I go in there to be creative and to work, right? So it's my space in our house where I basically create things, okay? And so my home office, I have racks and racks and shelves of books.
You do, I've seen them.
Wisdom. And it's like, you know, I've read these books, and so I'm not saying that the words speak to me when I'm in that environment, but being around that wisdom, which, you know, 3 years earlier was a book that I held in my physical hand and read it. And then I absorbed this information and I put it back on the shelf. Subconsciously, I guarantee when I walk into my office, so when I walk in there, the first thing I see is the bookshelf.
Yeah.
So my desk is to the right. So subconsciously, I don't even realize it that you know, my brain is picking up the colors, the fonts, the logos on the books, and it's reminding me, like,
it kind of primes you.
So absolutely. I mean, so I think what we're trying to say is like, think about what you're going to be doing in that space, and then get to the root, get to the heart of how, so you can do that more efficiently. Like if it is work, have books, have things that are conducive to being better at your job in that environment. If it is play, if it is recreation, if it is fiction, then, you know, the perfect chair with a blanket, with, you know, maybe the right lamp and a little bookshelf. You might not want to have 400 books. You might want to have the 3 books that you're reading, fiction books, but that will be inspiring. Like that will click your brain into, you know, disconnecting from what you were just doing, and now you're doing this new thing. And I think that's the key here, is like we're trying to disconnect. So we don't want our lives from the time we wake to the time we sleep to be this just, you know, complete rhythm of exactly the same thing over and over and over. We don't want to move from work to home to play back to work. Like right when we're eating, we should be eating. So we want to actually mentally unplug from activities throughout the day. You do that through your environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And there might be a temptation to think, I probably would have been guilty of this maybe in my 20s when money was tighter, but of thinking that, I don't know, spending a bunch of resources on changing my environment is maybe materialistic or wasteful, and I can get by with what I've got or whatever. But I would just encourage you, first of all, you don't need to spend a fortune to transform a space. Second of all, consider it an investment in your physical and mental health, the quality of your life. It's not wasteful if it's genuinely helping your mental health and the way that you feel about your life. Like that's a really valuable investment. So okay, so F is focus, L is lighting, O in flow stands for organization, which is just a little bit different than focus. Focus is about, having the space for a certain activity. Organization is really about eliminating clutter. I want to again cite a study here because clutter is a huge source of stress and can really affect your mental health. Yeah, absolutely. So this was a study from 2009. Rena Rapetti showed that women who described their homes as cluttered or full of unfinished projects were more likely to experience higher levels of cortisol, that's a stress hormone. And this chronic exposure to stress can lead to various health issues, including anxiety, depression, and weight gain. These things have ripple effects, knock-on effects. And so, I don't know, you might not have thought that clutter could affect your physical health, but give it enough time and it absolutely can if you're spending your whole life in a cluttered environment.
I bet if you're honest with yourself, everyone watching this now or in the future, like you've stepped into an environment and you felt stress.
Oh, you feel it right away.
And on the flip side, we've stepped into an environment and you felt peace.
Calm.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
A spaciousness.
When you go to Mexico or you go to the Caribbean and you get off the plane, it's just like, or you get to your villa, you get to your hotel, and you see the view. It's right. I mean, so it's positively 100% true that environment impacts mental and physical health.
Yeah, and what clutter is doing essentially is kind of causing our brains to work overtime. You could think about it like visual noise. It's stuff that's in the environment that's taking up your visual field, but that's not relevant to what you're trying to do in that space here and now. And so, in the same way that audible noise can be stressful and disruptive. Like, have you ever tried to count something while somebody shouts random numbers in your ear?
Yeah.
Like you're trying to count some object and I'm like 21, 52. It's so stressful and it makes it very hard to focus. It kind of boggles our brains. A very similar thing is happening visually when our environments are filled with clutter. I heard a really good quote that just stuck with me the other day that clutter is postponed decisions. When you just put something down because you're busy and I'll deal with that later. And you do that again and again and again and again and again. And before you know it, you are surrounded by clutter and your space is way less functional than it needs to be. So I would suggest, I know some people
So I know you're going to suggest to start small. So go ahead, because I suggest start big. But go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I know some people who frankly, probably have some hoarding tendencies, you know, and they... Like clutter just seems like this overwhelming thing. I've known people who have said for years, I'm going to get around to cleaning my house. I'm really going to tidy it up. And they never do. And I think they're just buried under years of postponed decisions. They're buried under years of clutter. And it feels like an elephant that they just can't tackle. Mm-hmm. And so I do suggest eating the elephant one bite at a time. Pick some space. Maybe it's your bedroom. Maybe it's even smaller. Maybe it's your car, and get that tidy. Get that organized and have a system. Get some bins, put things in shelves away from where you don't need to see them visually. They're there if you need them, but you don't need to be looking at them the moment you walk into the room. That's what I would suggest.
So that's...
You say the opposite? Start small. Big?
No. So I just say start big. Like, make the commitment that you're not that person anymore, that you're not going to let your environments get cluttered. And now with that, they will, like, when we clean our garage, it's pretty spotless, right? And over a span of a few months, stuff starts to accumulate.
Yeah.
But what we've done the past couple of years is not ever let it get to the point where we have to spend all day cleaning the garage. So you might have to roll up your sleeves. And one of the best things that you could do to optimize an environment is purge.
Sure.
We've got almost 4,000 apple trees in our orchard. And we need to prune these apple trees every year in the winter. So January and February, we're sitting we're cutting off big chunks of producing apple branches. But you're doing that because it's going to make the rest of the tree healthier. So clothes, like they say that you should get rid of at least 10% of your wardrobe every year. It's probably 20%, because if we're honest again, like you probably have a lot of shirts, but you wear the same 10 shirts over and over and over again. Right. But you probably have 30 of them.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. But the point is, like, clothes that don't inspire you, clothes that are just average, put them in a bin. If you don't want to give them away to Goodwill or the Federation of the Blind or something, or veterans, which, by the way, by doing that, you're making someone else's life better. You're making an impact. Like when you're giving stuff that you're not really using to someone else who needs it, that's a powerful concept right there. But if you think you may want it, put it in a big bin. You can get these Yeah, that thing's at Home Depot for just a few bucks with the plastic thing, and then, put this in the basement or put it in the attic. And what you're going to realize is that when you do that, just psychologically, so track with me, you're going to look at it in 2 years and be like, yeah, I never miss those clothes.
I didn't even think about it.
So instead of doing that, maybe just put it in a bag and give it away, right? But I think purging stuff, like throwing stuff out, I'm a huge fan of just getting rid of stuff that is uninspiring or we're not using consistently.
Yeah.
That I think is huge.
Yeah, I do too. And I think we all have different tolerances for that. Like I am pretty ruthless when I purge. If I haven't used something in the last 12 months, I don't need it.
Yeah.
It's gone. My wife feels pretty differently about that. So everyone has kind of different thresholds, but find yours. And maybe you do need to stretch yourself to get rid of some stuff. Or if it feels wasteful to throw it away, like Greg said, give it away if you can. So make somebody else's life better, for sure. Okay, so that's FLO. O is organization. W is wonder. And this is kind of the fun part. It's all fun, but this is where you get to personalize your space with items that inspire joy and that kind of reflect your personality. This is where you get to sort of bring your own flavor to a space. And so this is things like if there's art that inspires you and evokes something in you, makes you feel a certain way, maybe hang some quality art on the wall, or maybe you're repainting the walls. Maybe you're changing the colors. In fact, I just want to reference, again, another study. I find this so interesting. This is about the psychology of color, because colors, they just communicate something. They do. Different colors communicate something to our subconscious and they affect us in different ways. There was a study from 1997 that found that different colors in our environment can have a measurable impact on mood and productivity. For example, here are some examples. Blue and green tones are generally associated with calmness and relaxation, and red can increase heart rate and create feelings of excitement or agitation. I'm very fascinated by this and how deep this runs. I don't know if it has to do with somewhere deep in our history, red is associated with blood and emergencies or something, and blue is water and calming. I don't know, but it's true. And so maybe play with color. Maybe you could have an accent wall in your house, or you could I think one of the easiest ways to change the feel of a room, other than lighting, is color is probably. They're related, right? It's paint.
Yeah, paint. Paint is so easy, and again, if you go to Sherwin-Williams or Home Depot or Lowe's, you get the color palette. You can actually look at the names of the paint. There's probably 50 shades of blue, but the names of the shades, there's a psychological connection to how they name that paint color. So if you really want to what do you want your home office to represent? What character trait do you want it to bring out of you, right?
Yep.
And so I think our garage, we have Honda flags up, motocross. It's excitement and adventure in our garage. We've got motorcycles and razors and mountain bikes, and so it's really not calming. It's not blues, but in my home office, it's absolutely blue. It's a light blue that is almost like a sky blue. And man, if you knew for certain that optimizing an environment was going to make you 10% happier or healthier, would you do it? What's the threshold for you personally? Because
I would.
This is the one thing that you're hearing the message, you're reading the message, you're agreeing that it's important, but it's one of these things that you put on the back burner. Like procrastination. And what I'm saying is, instead of starting small, hey, I'm not that person anymore. I'm going to actually optimize. I'm going to commit to optimizing environments. My office, my garage, the house, the backyard. You'll just feel better about spending time in those environments. And so it just works.
You've done a good job, I think, of personalizing your office. When I walk in there, you've got art on the walls, and I've asked you, what's that one mean? Because I know you well enough to know, he picked that for a reason. That evokes something in him. He likes that for some reason. You've got art on the walls. You've got some bookshelves with books that have influenced your thinking. Impacted you.
Yep.
You've got, I don't know if they're little.
And that people in the company come in and they see a book and they're like, hey, what's that? And then it gives me a
conversation starters
to describe it. And then they borrow the book.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And hopefully they bring it back. But the point of a book is just knowledge, right? And sharing that knowledge makes me feel good, right? If it's an idea that's helped change or shape my brain or approach to life, then let's share it with others.
That's awesome. So flow, F, focus, L, lighting, O, organization, and W is wonder. Create spaces that evoke a sense of wonder in you, spaces that you just love being in that inspire you in some way.
So one thing with wonder, just one last comment. For me, so nature, this world, like the most wondrous place is Earth.
Yeah.
Right. When we look at landscapes that just take your breath away, right? Like a beach, a mountain. So grab those types of pictures. If you're really trying to, what's the fastest way to create a sense of wonder is, grabbing those types of pictures,
those images,
or photos, so that you can get online in print, or you can go online on Amazon, or just Google them. Incredible landscape art. We have that stuff at home. We have that stuff all over the office here. To me, man, that's like the easiest way to bring a sense of wonder into, because again, you're subconsciously seeing it, and I'll catch myself walking by a picture often, 100 times, not looking at it, but then it stops me. Like for some reason, it's like, yeah, I know that's there, but man, would you look at that, right? It's like this crazy connection to it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that's the outline of flow. I just want to hit a couple questions that we had come in. I'd be curious, Greg, so you've curated a lot of spaces. I've been in your home. It's beautiful. It's optimized. But I want to know, what's your favorite space and why?
Yeah. So for sure. So I would say, our favorite space is our home, and pretty much any room in our home is really optimized for that feeling, for just feeling like inspiring. Probably the favorite spot in our house is the back deck.
Yeah, it's nice.
So we built a wraparound porch. Some people have a front porch, like a covered porch, and they sit with the rocking chairs. So the front of our house faces sort of the front of the farm, the retail part of our farm. But the back of the house, like we're on a hill, one of the highest points in the county, so it overlooks the orchard. It's got this big sweeping sort of panoramic
it's a beautiful
orchard,
view.
And the sunsets due west, and we're looking due west. So when we designed our house architecturally, so it didn't take the architect too long to figure out, like, wow, this view is incredible. So how do we maximize that? Let's put the porch wrapping around the side and the entire back of the house. So that's covered. That's, some of the best experiences are when it's about to rain, or when we can see a storm coming in from the west, because the wind comes from the west and we can literally see it, but we're undercover essentially. So unless it's coming in sideways and hitting us, which then we have to go inside, but it's awesome to be outside in the rain. It's just, that's probably the best environment, and you've been out there. It's amazing.
I love it.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay. How can I personalize my space without spending a lot of money? I can think of 3 pretty easy ways and pretty cheap ways to really transform the feel of a room. An absolutely free way to change the way a room feels is to rearrange the furniture. That will totally change the way a room feels, especially if you've been used to it being that way for some extended period of time. So, I don't know, take a look at your living room or something. Could the couch be somewhere else? Could the TV be somewhere else? How could you rearrange the pieces that you already have, or take away some, maybe create more space? Maybe you've just filled up a room too much. So play with moving furniture. That would be a free way to really change how a room feels when you walk into it. And then the other 2 we've already mentioned, but they're pretty affordable. That would be lighting. I think has the next biggest impact, and paint. Paint's not that expensive. To pick up a gallon and paint a few walls. I think in terms of what's the cheapest way to have the biggest impact, those 3 stand out to me. As like move furniture, maybe paint, change the colors, and along with color goes lighting. See what you can do to adjust lighting, and just those 3 together can completely transform how a space feels.
And what about making a dream wall? So what if you did something as simple as take all your magazines that you've subscribed to for the past X amount of years, or the magazines when you go to the airport you pick up, like I pick up Outside Magazine, or Boating, Lake Life, or Caribbean, like traveling. And so the imagery in these magazines, these photographers have been paid a lot of money to produce these images most of the time, okay? And just flipping through a magazine that is on the bookshelf, or you're ready to toss, just extract 3, 4, 5, 6 pictures from every magazine and make a dream wall.
That's good.
Like in the garage, and your wife might not let you set it up in the family room.
Yeah.
But in our old house, we had a dream wall, and it was literally the garage door open up. I pulled the car in, and the dream wall. Right, the boys were young, but it was probably, I will say, 100 photos. It was the entirety of the wall from top to bottom, and probably 20 feet wide.
Wow.
And it just had stuff that inspired me. So a lot of like landscapes, travel.
Boats, probably.
Some stuff for sure, some boats. Like skiing, so motocross. Just like this sense of wonder. So for me, that dream wall was free essentially because the magazines were getting tossed out. And so to make a dream wall is a great way to do it, maybe in the basement, maybe in your home office, maybe at your real office. As a matter of fact, if you put a frame around the wall, if you just grab some cheap wood and you sort of picked out a spot on the wall to take a literal magazine page, tape it on the wall, but then just put a border around it, that could actually, from a design aesthetic, that could actually look really cool.
Yeah. That's good. Okay, what if I don't have control over an entire room or space? We kind of hit on this earlier, like if you're a factory worker and you can't change the lighting in the factory, probably. But it's also true at home. You probably live with other people, and you're,
just see what you can get away with. So I would say just keep doing stuff until somebody says, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, right? What are you doing?
Or if they're in an authority position, they're going to be like, "What are you doing?" and stop you from doing it. But oftentimes, if you're improving an environment, you're improving it for yourself and for somebody else.
Yeah, that's true.
Just like quit asking for permission, ask for forgiveness. I think far too many of us in life we're moved to inaction. Our default mode is inaction because we're afraid that someone's going to say something.
Yeah.
Well, actually, your default mode should be action.
Yeah.
Until someone says something.
Take initiative.
That's a big difference. But if you did that, then make any space better.
Yeah, I agree. If you don't have like a sanctuary space, so like I talked about my basement, but kind of being my happy place, I would maybe try to find one of those first. Like I can imagine, again, I'm in toddler phase at the moment, so I can imagine if I was like, okay, I'm going to do this flow thing, I'm going to commit, I'm going to go big, not small, and I'm going to change the way our family room looks. And I could rearrange furniture, sure, but if I try to declutter and want it to stay decluttered every day, that's just unrealistic. I've got a kid who's getting into toy boxes and cabinets and pulling, like every day there's toys on the floor, So I would set myself up for frustration, I think, if I picked that room as being the space that I want to start with. Instead, pick some area, no matter how small. There was somebody, Abby, who works with us here, was talking about when she went through H40, she realized that she has a shared bathroom. And the bathroom morning, she's like trying to get ready, put her earrings, makeup, whatever. And there's kids in here and a dog in here, and it's crowded. It doesn't feel pleasant. It's kind of stressful for her. So she set up a corner of her bedroom with a vanity and a mirror and all of her makeup stuff. So she kind of has this little portion of the room that's just hers, and it's focused and it's functional and it's organized. And so I would say do that. Like pick some space that you and only you can control. You might set yourself up for frustration otherwise.
Yeah, cool.
Yep. I think that's about it for this call. So we're at 38 minutes. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Next week, tomorrow, the next module, the last module of this H40 sprint drops. It's called Rest, and it's all about how to get your best sleep ever. We think that sleep is at least 50% of the equation when it comes to physical health. It's important that we get this right. So that module will open 10 a.m. tomorrow.
Sleep is super important. And I want to remind everybody that we are launching the Freedomology community essentially in about a month, in a little over a month. So we've been working a ton behind the scenes, building out some technology via a mobile app and a web app that's going to organize everything we're doing here at Freedomology. We've been working really hard on this the past few months, and we're thinking end of September-ish, but for sure in October of this year, which is extremely exciting.
It's going to be great. It's one place for all things Freedomology. You'll find all the sprints, all the other people. Really looking forward to that. So thank you for joining us today. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
See you guys.